We are at Seabrook Village in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. Today is June 21st, 2018. I am Carol Fowler of the Center for U.S. War Veterans Oral Histories at the National Guard and Militia Museum of New Jersey in Seagirt, a partner of the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. My fellow interviewer is Ms. Christine Galassi. Our honored veteran is Noel Kirchner, who served in the Korea War with the United States Army Security Agency. He served from August of 1950 until August of 1953 and was a high-speed radio operator, Morse code interceptor.
Yeah.
Thank you for wanting to be here today, Noel. Your eyewitness account is considered a primary historical source and a valuable contribution to our Veteran History Project. And good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I guess the way you found out about it was through Christine.
Yes.
Okay.
She was at a meeting of the Seabrook Veterans Group, which is an association of veterans, both male and female, who live in Seabrook.
Right. Very nice. How about we'll go back to life prior to service. Had anybody in the Kirchner family served before you?
A cousin, that's all.
That's it?
We were fortunate. The ages didn't break right.
Okay. And you were born in Brooklyn?
Yes.
What was life like prior to service for you in Brooklyn?
It was pretty good. You know, I went to school. I had friends, had no responsibilities, and I lived pretty well.
How old were you when you enlisted?
18 and a half.
Okay. And what was your motivation and why the Army?
Not the Navy, because I couldn't swim and I couldn't fly, but so the Army was the only choice. Why I enlisted? It was just that time of life, that time in my life, that I felt I had to do something.
Okay. And so let's go through all of the locations where the Army sent you. And what kind of adjustment was it to go from civilian to military life?
First of all, I had never been out of New York State. A big trip was to go to the Bronx from Brooklyn. The Army sent me to Fort Dix, which was for me a voyage unto the unknown. And I did my basic training at Fort Dix. After that, I went to Camp Gordon, which is now Fort Gordon, and went through.
Is that Georgia?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that adjustment. The South, for a
The
Yank to
South.
be in the South?
Well, that was an experience because segregation was still in effect down there in civilian life. And
Even though the troops had been integrated by President Truman.
the troops were integrated, but once you got off the base, you were in the South.
Right.
And you learn to live with it. Like everything else, you learn to live with it.
Do you remember the first time you witnessed discrimination? Was it on a bus or?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah, I just knew it was there. And,
Because you had black troops in your unit, right?
I
Or
don't
with
know
you?
that we had any. You see, the Army Security Agency was all regular Army people. We didn't have draftees until '52. So basically what we had were World War II vets and enlistees like me. Again, it was pretty sheltered. I lived on the base, went to school 5 days a week. I don't remember going to school on the weekend. And
That was for high-speed radio?
high-speed radio operator.
Can you describe that job?
You would listen to Morse code and simultaneously type. You would copy what was coming over on the air. Now, as someone who didn't know how to type when I went into the Army and knew very little about Morse code, it was an interesting transition. You sat there with a headset on and listened to the Morse code coming over the speaker, and you'd do A, and your finger would hit the A in the time. You didn't get messages because the code was always code groups made up of 5 letters, or 5 letters of that, which had to be decoded. But you listen to that 8 hours a day, at least I remember it in 8 hours a day. And pretty soon you were repeating it to yourself. Just as an aside, when we were in Korea, our tent was outside a power unit. And we had one of our people start copying Morse code from the power unit while he was sleeping. But he soon got over it. You know, we'd wake him up. You can't carry it. But it was good training because I learned Morse and I learned how to type. Later on, I would be able to type news, which was transmitted at better than 60 words a minute, and these were words, so I was able to copy that.
Do you still know the Morse code?
Yeah, but I'm not 60 word a minute now.
Oh, no.
No. As a matter of fact, news, when it was broadcast, would come over as da-da-dit-da-da-da-did-it, N-E-W-S. And then they would come out with the message.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting at the time. For an 18-year-old and 19-year-old kid, it was totally new. I'd never been out, as I said, I'd never been outside of New York. I was down in Augusta, Georgia. The only thing I remember about Augusta is at the golf course. They used to have a major tournament there.
How did they select you for doing this work? Did you have any special skills going into it?
No. You took an aptitude test, a general aptitude test, and they said you were, you know, you would be good at this, or you're a rifleman, or something else. So I was approached by a recruiter for the Army Security Agency while I was at Fort Dix. And I said, sure, why not? Because I didn't know any better. And they put a hold on me. The ASA put a hold on me. So at that time, I would imagine that they had a preference. So I was eligible for OCS, but I couldn't go because they had preference.
And then you were at Carlisle Barracks?
Yeah, that was just a stopping point on my way between Fort Gordon, or Camp Gordon, and Fort Devens.
Where was Arlington Hall?
In Washington. Outside of Washington was Virginia.
And what did you do there?
Just waited. There was a lot of that in my career, waiting.
Hurry up and wait.
One of the things I remember about the Army, about Fort Dix, is soon after we were inducted, they woke us up at some ungodly hour and took us over to the quartermaster court to be issued uniforms. But the quartermaster didn't open until 8, and we were there at 6. So We had nowhere else to go.
Right. And then you were up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts?
Fort Devens for Morse Code Intercept. That was the Army Security Agency.
What is Morse Code Intercept?
That's where you get on the air and listen for signals from the enemy. Try to locate their transmitter, and by triangulation, locate the transmitter, and then try to create the order of battle, how their forces line up.
Trying to pinpoint location?
Yeah.
Sounds like math was involved in that.
Oh, well, basically what we did was if we would intercept a transmission, we would broadcast to our stations, and we'd have 2 or 3 stations pick up on the same frequency, and by using direction finders, triangulate.
Oh, I see. On your discharge form, it said interpreter, but did they mean interceptor?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone didn't understand your job.
Incidentally, you had to have a security clearance to be in the ASA. And the FBI interviewed my neighbors, my
Oh,
friends. They thought my neighbors thought I was in trouble.
did your family know that you weren't?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how much of the mail was censored.
I don't know. I don't remember. Stateside mail wasn't censored.
Oh, right, okay. So did you get to go home in between your duty stations here, stateside?
Yeah, I had leave.
Right.
I came home April 51. Got married.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Did you know what was happening overseas?
Did I know? I knew generally. I read the newspaper like everybody else. Specifics? No, I didn't know. Interestingly enough, after I left Fort Devens, I went to the 329th Communications Reconnaissance Company in Camp Pickett, Virginia. And we were involved in maneuvers, Operation Southern Pines, and I don't recall how long that took. But other than that, the 329th was in Camp Pickett. We were pretty sure we were going to Germany because every other unit that was in Camp Pickett had gone to Germany. We didn't go to Germany. They put us on a troop train, and we went cross-country to California, got a pass in California, then they put us on a troop ship, and we headed for Yokohama.
Japan.
And we got to Yokohama, we went down the gangplank, across the dock, and up the gangplank of a Liberty ship, and went to Busan.
What was happening in South Korea? What was the first thing you saw when you...
First thing I smelled was South Korea. They used to fertilize their gardens, or whatever you call it, their fields with human waste. They would collect it in what were called honey pots. And they'd take it and spread it out over the field. And you could smell South Korea. I don't know what it's like now. I have no real desire to go back, but I understand it's changed quite a bit.
Mhm.
Well, we went down to Busan.
When was that, do you remember?
It was in '51. It was September or October '51.
And what was happening then in Busan?
Well, we were in an area where the company was bivouacked while they took our equipment off the ships. And after that, drove off to one of these unknown places. Well, most of which ended in Chippery, Sabangori, Chanchan.
Could you spell those?
No, I can pronounce them. Chinchan was Chinchon. Sabangori, I think, was Sibango-RI. And Chippery was probably the same thing, Chipori.
Okay. What was your mission there?
That's where we set up our receivers. All of our equipment was loaded on trucks. There were radio shacks on the trucks, so that we worked actually from the back of the truck.
So when did you go from the 329 to the 326? That was
That was sometime in '52. They,
oh, I know the 326 was there for a year, the end of 51 through 52.
yeah.
So let's talk about that. Unless you want to stay on the 329th. Do you have any stories from that?
Not really.
No.
No.
Did you see action?
No. No. It was a non-combat unit.
So you didn't ever feel that you were in any way in danger?
I felt in danger from the time I got on the ship, but not really.
And when you were in this truck, were you fairly well protected?
The truck wasn't moving at the time, and protected against what? I mean, this is a truck with a cabin sitting on top of it, and I doubt if it would repel, bullets or artillery. But, it was working conditions. You ignored it. This is what you did.
Who was with your unit? What other troops?
Pretty much an independent unit.
Okay. No other nationalities?
No, but we were near a Canadian NAFI, which is their version of a PX. And so there were Canadian troops around. I saw some other troops individually. We would see different people at the shower point. Go up for a shower, get a shower and change the uniform.
What were living conditions like for you?
Oh, nothing like today. But they weren't bad. We slept in 8-man tents. We had, we could get to a shower point. It was like a job. It was, basically, we weren't faced with combat. There was no enemy down there that we knew of. You get up in the morning or whenever your shift was, you go to work, come back, dinner, or lunch or whatever.
Were you armed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I also had a weapon that my father had sent me, because it's pretty hard to sleep in a sleeping bag with a rifle. So I had a handgun.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It wasn't, the Army didn't really particularly care for it. But nobody said anything.
Oh, okay. And what news did you have of the war itself while you were there?
We got it from the Army paper,
Stars and Stripes?
Stars and Stripes. You know, we had radio broadcasts.
And you got news from home?
I got news from them.
And packages from home?
Oh, yeah. One thing about it, they had they made sure I was well fed. I had a package following me from Fort Dix to Camp Gordon to Fort Devens to Korea.
Oh my
A neighbor
God.
had sent it back to Bay Camp, and by the time it reached me, it was, but
Not
it
the
made
same.
the trip. Yeah.
It's incredible. What else? So morale was good?
Well, except for wanting to get out of there, but sure, yeah. Incidentally, I got drafted while I was in Korea. I got a notice to appear at my draft board, but they wouldn't let me go.
Oh, okay. All right. That's something that your neighbors do, right? Your neighbors are the draft board?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
All right, any other 329th that we need to cover? Were you near Kojido or no?
I don't recognize any.
The island where the Chinese prisoners were?
No.
Did you support an orphanage?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
You know, American troops are particularly generous to children. Now, when I was in Korea, we had houseboys, Korean houseboys, and we took care of them, and they took care of us. But the company created an orphanage, and we had, well, there was an orphanage, and the company took it out to its wing, and we took care of those kids. And, you know, we just did it. Nobody thought anything about it. It's just one of the things you do. And I don't know about anybody else's, but I know our people were particularly generous.
So you shared your rations with them?
We did. We did. If we, nobody who went hungry who we knew of, we took care of them.
And did you write home to ask for anything to be sent for the orphans?
I don't remember.
And did you support them after you got home? As a veteran? As a
No.
veteran in a veteran
No.
group?
No, because in between my service in Korea, I spent time on Okinawa, so I sort of lost touch.
So you saw what?
I spent time on Okinawa.
Right.
I did my year in Korea, and then in the typical Army fashion, I was going to be transferred to Hawaii or some other exotic place, but you don't spell Hawaii Okinawa, and that's where I landed.
Did you have R&R in Japan?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
How long were you in South Korea?
Or a year.
And you had 2 R&Rs?
Yeah.
How did that work out?
I don't know.
They just sent you.
Yeah, they asked me if I wanted to go, and I went. You know, we got 2, on R&R, you would get 2 3-day passes.
Oh, okay.
So you basically go for a week. I remember the first time we went, we were all in fatigues because that's what we wore in Korea. And the AP, the Air Police, wouldn't let us off the base because we weren't in uniform. So we finally had to get Class A uniforms from quartermaster there, and then they let us off the base. But went to the first R&R. I went to Kyoto, and we went into a bar and spent 6 days in a bar. The second R&R, I went to the mountain, Fujiyama, Mount Fuji. There was a rest area up there for troops. That was a better time. So
Why?
I'm sorry?
Why?
Better living. It was a resort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Sounds beautiful. Being on top of a mountain.
Yeah. It was. But then we went back.
What was the attitude towards Americans in Japan that soon after the atomic bomb?
They lost, we won. And they were very well aware of it. They were very nice to us.
Right.
Very
I heard that.
cordial.
Did you buy anything? Did you send anything home?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I sent my nieces, my young nieces then, I guess we were all young then, I sent them kimonos. And one niece sent me a picture of her wearing it.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah. Except that one niece is now over 70. And I don't think she got the kimono anymore. And it wouldn't fit.
All right, so what happened with your transfer to the 326th?
I don't know how that came about.
You were needed, I guess.
It was a question of your MOS, military occupational specialty, as they say. And I wound up on the short list and got to go
Got to go,
to the 326.
do you remember where that was?
No.
Okay. Was it at Wishanbu?
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
What year was that?
That was 52.
And it was doing the same type work?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have bonds with, did you make friends with the people that you did this job with?
Yes, interestingly enough, I have a friend who lives in Minnesota who I met at signal school, and we keep in touch. I email him in April. His birthday is in April, and I can never remember the date. And he emails me in December, which is my birthday. But that's a long time now, really.
So, ever since you got home, you've been writing to each other? Or calling?
Well, we email, and
So a lot of years went by before you found each other again.
yeah.
How did that come about? We're kind of jumping the gun,
Yeah.
talking about, yeah.
Well, there's an organization called ASA Korea, made up of Korean vets, and I found him and he found me.
We'll talk about that more later. That's very interesting. How much longer were you in Korea after you moved in 1952 to the other unit?
I was in Korea until the beginning of '53 when I was transferred to Okinawa.
Oh, okay. And what was that job? 8603 AAU.
The 8603 Army Auxiliary Unit.
So let's talk about that. Different work?
Essentially, the only thing we did was make sure the communication worked. In the morning, we would sign on, and at night, we would change the frequency. But we also operated a Mars station, military amateur radio station there. It's King Roger 6, Japan, London, KR6JL.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We would talk to the States, to a ham radio operator in the States. And some of our people got to talk to their family at home. They would call the ham radio operator and he'd place a long distance call, telephone call, and they spoke to their family.
Did anything unusual happen while you were in Japan?
In Japan?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I remember.
So all of our prisoners made it home before Korea broke out in war. All of our World War II prisoners were home already, right?
You mean prisoners in Japan?
Yeah.
In Japan? As far as I know.
As far as you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to any civilians about if they knew any Americans who had been there?
No.
Oh.
No. Japanese were very polite, but they weren't very forthcoming.
That's interesting. Did you get to partake of any of their culture? You know, any of their customs, or did they invite you into their
No.
homes? No.
No. We weren't there long enough.
Oh, okay.
You know, we're only there.
And the
6
customs are
days.
so different than
Yeah.
what you were aware of at the time, and they were very unusual.
Yeah.
And so I can see where that would be
You know,
not really comfortable.
but I was also a 19-year-old kid, and I wasn't particularly interested in their culture. I was just interested in doing my time. You
And
know.
getting back
Yeah.
to your wife.
Now, strangely enough, I have 2 grandsons, each of whom is, well, one is going to be 20, one is 23, so he's much older than I was at the time. But the younger one is 20, and he's in his third year of college. But when I was 20, I was on Okinawa, you know, and my life was a lot different than theirs is. And I'd probably swap it if I could,
Aw.
you know.
When you were on Okinawa, did you see any effects of World War II?
Yes.
Can you describe those?
Well, there was structures that had been destroyed, and there was, interestingly enough, there was a pit, and there was all sorts of military equipment in it. Of course, we didn't bring it home. We junked it.
Right.
There was all sorts of military equipment in this massive pit. There weren't any enemy soldiers there, although I understand that in some of the islands, they came out of the forest years later. But again, we stayed on base. We were near a town called Naha, N-A-H-A. And we just did our thing.
Okay. Did you know anything about the children's airlift The U.S. Air Force flew more than 1,000 children from Seoul to the south in Korea?
No.
Okay. All right. So, did you count down the days until you were leaving for the States?
Once again, yeah, I was offered the opportunity to go to OCS. But if I went to OCS, I'd have to serve 3 years. I'd have to guarantee to serve 3 years. And,
Another 3 years?
oh yeah, 3 years after graduation from OCS. And I could bring my wife to wherever I was stationed. Although if I was in Korea, it didn't work, so I want to go home.
Also, you wrote down that you were at Camp Belvoir, Virginia?
Camp that's Pickett.
Oh,
That's
that's
a mistake.
Pickett. Oh, okay.
Made a mistake, it's Pickett.
Oh, let me cross that out. Okay. All right, so let's talk about your homecoming, how you traveled.
In typical Army fashion, I came home on a troop ship from Okinawa. We got to Camp Stoneman in California, and they put us on a plane, and I flew to New Jersey, and I was sent to Camp Kirchner. Now, I had been away over a year. I had very little time left in the Army, and I couldn't get a pass.
Why?
I don't know.
I thought all
So you were stuck.
Korea veterans could get a pass now.
Well, I was being held for discharge. I couldn't get a pass. Not to say I didn't go home, but I couldn't get a pass.
You went home regardless of not having a pass. Get it?
What was the worst thing they could do to me? Really? You know, they weren't going to court-martial me for being
Right.
away.
So what'd you do? Hop a train or?
No, my father picked me up. I walked out the gate and we got in the car. And I went home. It's easy enough.
That was you were able to just walk out the gate. No guard was there or anything.
I
Wait.
walked out the gate.
We weren't at war then, right?
That was 53, and I think
Yeah.
we were still at war, but,
Well-
but there was a truce.
Ceasefire, right?
Yeah. So I went home for the weekend and came back. And then they then they gave me what they call convenience to the government discharge, which was 15 days before the end of my term. And that was the end.
And you were officially discharged what day and what month and year?
August of 53. I served 2 years, 11 months, and 15 days.
Oh, right. Did they try to get you to re-up?
Oh, sure. They didn't try very hard, and I wasn't very, encouraging.
And what about the GI Bill?
The GI Bill. God bless it. I got out of the Army in August. In September, I went back to school. And the GI Bill at the time paid an allowance. And I worked full-time, went to school at night, and the GI Bill helped to support me.
What did you do full time?
I was a clerk.
Was that a previous job that you had?
Yeah. Yeah, I was an insurance company clerk. Then I took some accounting courses and I became, strangely enough, I wound up in the garment industry as an accountant. And I spent the rest of my career in the garment industry. But the GI Bill helped a great deal. It paid for, I had I had a temporary filling that had been in there since Korea, so it was over 2 years. And the GI Bill took care of it, paid the dentist bill. Which is funny because when I applied to have the dentist bill taken care of, or go to the dentist, they asked me if I had been injured. And I said yes, and I've had a disability pension since then. 10% disability pension.
You said you had been injured?
Yeah. In Busan, while our vehicles were being unloaded, some of us walked guard duty. And I was walking past a fire when somebody had left a grenade in it, and it blew up.
Wow. Shrapnel?
Yeah. Right thigh. But again, we didn't have any winter clothes. We were supposed to be issued winter clothes in Korea, and our supply sergeant went down to the quartermaster to pick it up, and he never came back. Don't know what happened to him.
Uh-oh. Hmm.
So,
How much did the injury to your right thigh plague you? In the later years?
it really doesn't bother me. It's, well, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me. I'm used to it, so
Oh,
really,
after that many years.
yeah. Besides, it's arthritis that's caught up to both knees, so can't tell the difference.
Do you go to the VA?
Upon occasion, but mostly I use my own doctors. I used to go to the VA for medications, but my Plan D has become less expensive than the VA
Oh, that's interesting.
for the medications I use, yeah. But I do go every 6 months for a checking.
Did you join any veteran groups other than Seabrook?
I'm a member of the Jewish War Veterans, Post 125, Asbury Park, in Ocean Township. We lived in Ocean Township for 40-some odd years before we moved here. And I'm not particularly active in that. But again, I'm a member of the Seabrook Veterans Group.
Did you ever speak about your time in service at any school groups?
No.
Is this the most that you've ever spoken about it?
Yeah. It's the most I remember about it. We brought back some old memory by questions.
Well, we were very impressed to see that you were posting online with your association, the 329th, 326th. How did you come about to find them online? You just typed it in?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you found ASA Korea?
Yeah.
We'll have to look into that for our future veterans of that war.
Yeah. I find, though, that the majority of the members of ASA Korea served there after I did. I mean,
Oh, right.
us old folks are drifting out. But some of them have interesting stories. There's a resident here who was in the ASA in Germany. As far as I know, he and I are the only two ASA members in the whole, I think we've got 300 veterans here.
It's amazing.
But when you consider the age group and when you consider the fact that there's somewhere around 1,400 residents, it's not particularly amazing.
Oh, okay.
But there's still some World War II veterans, some Korean veterans, some Vietnam veterans.
Oh, sure.
awful lot of us.
Noel, I just want to say that we're honored and humbled that you're here today to speak to us of your sacrifice and contributions that you made in service to our country. And thank you and God bless you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.